So my coach said, tell me about the creative accidents that have got you where you are in your 84 years. And so I started out on my walk, and I thought about it. And I thought, probably the first thing that creative accidents taught me was that I am teachable. You have to be teachable, which I guess could mean you have to be open to what an accident, which I like to say, oh, I was wrong, it turned out I was right, and that's how I was wrong. And then, by the time I reached the first checkpoint on my walk this morning, the second thing that I learned in 84 years of happy accidents was I had to be prepared. And in this, I had the guidance of Louis Pasteur. He said, chance favors the prepared minds. That means that in my 84 years, I had to be prepared every year for some happy accident. Well, by the time I reached the next checkpoint, which was the staircase at the top of my walk, 40 steps, I thought about the happy accident the day that my wife brought home an audio tape cassette, and it was by Stephen Covey, and it was titled 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the habits was that you had to be aware of the 4 aspects of the human character. The physical self, that's climbing staircases like this. The spiritual self, that is having the spirit, the belief, the awe. The third thing was the intellectual self. And the fourth thing was the social, emotional self. It was a happy accident that my wife brought home that audio cassette, and I listened to it every day for the next year. I think I wore out probably 2 of those cassettes, and I read the book, several books. But it was that happy accident of Linda bringing home that audio cassette from her job. Now I'm on my downhill run, and I take a pause and admire the skyline, Seattle. Not very pretty today, all gray. And I think about that time, that happy accident in, it was Paris, and my wife and I, in 1969, were on our way back by way of Paris from Oslo, where I had worked for weeks with the famous Rolf Nash, the artist. And now we were in a restaurant called La Procope, and sitting next to me, 2 men were speaking Norwegian, and I couldn't help but eavesdrop. And they were talking about Rolf Nash, and I turned and I asked them, Skulemai, and so on. It turned out they had just seen Rolf Nash in Oslo, and he had said good things about me. Now, talk about happy accidents. That was one memorable happy accident. And I learned, don't be afraid to excuse yourself and listen in and ask somebody what they're talking about. Don't be shy. Well, by this time on my walk, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel. But I was thinking about a number of happy accidents in my 84 years that got me where I am. And I could answer my coach. She's waiting. And it was actually a number of accidents. I'm thinking of 2016, for example, when I discovered there was pressure on my spinal cord that required an operation. But that was also the year that Donald Trump was elected president, and I decided that in 2017, I might as well cocoon and do something I've always wanted to try, which is to write my autobiography. And today I'm still reading sections of that autobiography uh, 10 years later and enjoying it, because there are things that I wrote in my autobiography that I'm happy. And it was an accident, the accident of that unfortunate election. And there were accidents in between. There was COVID in 2020. There was ChatGPT, which I'm still using. And if you're wondering, full disclosure, that's the source of my coach. Actually, Copilot by Microsoft. Now I'm off to breakfast with my darling wife. Thanks for watching. I'm Bill Ritchie.